Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will spend the next 6 days in South America attending a pair of high-level leader summits. Today he flies to Lima, Peru for this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference, APEC. The summit is focused on issues like international trade and mitigating the effects of climate change. But really, it's the return of Donald Trump to the White House that's going to be top of mind for APEC leaders. Trump's threat to impose global duties on goods imported into the U.S. is a major concern for these countries, especially those from Latin America. So too are the consequences of mass deportation of illegal immigrants that he has vowed to act on in the first days of his second term. Now, Trump doesn't become president until his inauguration on January 20th, so he, of course, won't be attending. But the U.S. will be represented by President Joe Biden, who is now in the lame duck period of his presidency. But China's President Xi Jinping will be attending, and with the U.S. headed towards an increasingly protectionist position, China sees an opportunity in the region. In fact, the Chinese government has already made a multi-billion-dollar investment in a new port facility near Lima, not far from the summit site. This is part of Xi's Belt and Road approach, making huge investments in the developing world in an attempt to increase China's political and economic clout. Now, Justin Trudeau is among the longest-serving leaders of APEC countries that are going to be at the summit. He's had 4 full years of dealing with the Trump administration, so it's expected other leaders will be looking to hear from him on his experiences dealing with Trump personally. After Lima, Trudeau flies to Brazil for this year's G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. The group will have similar concerns about trade and Trump, but for the 3rd year in a row, Russia's war on Ukraine will be a key area of discussion. It's uncertain if the U.S. will continue to provide weapons and funding to Ukraine once Trump becomes president, so G20 countries will be under pressure from European members and from Canada to do more to help. Russia was kicked out of the G8 after its annexation of Crimea in 2014, but it remains a G20 member. And President Vladimir Putin is not attending the Rio summit and will instead send his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov. The other story we'll be watching in Rio is whether Trudeau has any contact with India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. They met briefly on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy in June, but Canada-India relations have gotten a lot worse since then, of course, because there was the expulsion of the diplomats alleged to have been involved in the killing of a Sikh activist in BC last year. Canadian officials are saying no meetings with Modi have been planned, at least so far. Glen McGregor, City News, Ottawa.